What if I told you the most dangerous thing about a 2026 car is not the engine? It is not the transmission. It is not even the battery. The most dangerous thing about a 2026 car may be the fact that you do not really own it anymore. You think you are buying a car. But what you may actually be buying is a rolling computer, wrapped in plastic, loaded with sensors, locked behind software, tied to a subscription account, monitored by data systems, and designed so that the moment something goes wrong, you are forced back to the dealer with your wallet open. And that is why mechanics are warning people right now. Not because they hate new technology. Not because they are stuck in the past. Not because they want everyone driving a 1998 pickup forever. They are warning people because they are the ones seeing what happens after the warranty ends. They are the ones plugging in the scan tool. They are the ones staring at error codes that do not point to a broken engine but to a failed module, a locked software function, a miscalibrated sensor, a camera that needs dealer programming, or a touchscreen that controls basic features and suddenly decides it does not want to work. And when the customer asks the most painful question, how much is this going to cost? The answer is becoming uglier every single year. Because the 2026 car is not just a car anymore. It is an ecosystem. And once you are inside that ecosystem, everything costs money. The diagnosis costs money. The software update costs money. The calibration costs money. The subscription costs money. The battery system costs money. The camera system costs money. Even a tiny bumper hit can become a nightmare because that bumper is not just a bumper anymore. It is a sensor rack. It is a radar housing. It is part of a safety network. It is part of the brain of the car. And if one tiny piece of that brain goes out of alignment, the car may light up like a Christmas tree. This is the part the dealership commercial will never tell you. They will show you the giant screen. They will show you the panoramic roof. They will show you the lane assist. They will show you the wireless updates. They will show you the smooth electric torque, the luxury interior, the futuristic dashboard, the phone app, the digital key, the self-parking feature, the camera view, the driver monitoring system, and the promise that the future is finally here. But mechanics are looking at that same future and saying, be careful. Because the future looks amazing on the showroom floor. But it can look like a financial trap in the repair bay. Let's start with the first reason mechanics are warning people about 2026 cars. The engine is no longer the most complicated part of the vehicle. For decades, if you had a good engine, a good transmission, and a solid frame, you had a good car. That was the old logic. A mechanic could listen to it, drive it, smell it, inspect it, and usually find the problem. A bad alternator. Replace it. A bad starter. Replace it. A leaking hose. Fix it. A worn belt. Change it. A bad fuel pump. Annoying, but understandable. But now, the failure may not be mechanical at all. The car may run perfectly, but the screen freezes. The car may drive fine, but the lane assist camera throws an error. The motor may be healthy, but the battery management system refuses to cooperate. The brakes may be physically fine, but the software wants a calibration. The door handle may not be broken, but the electronic actuator is dead. The seat may not be damaged, but the control module has failed. The heat may work, but the touchscreen that controls it does not. That is the nightmare. A simple feature now has a chain of electronics behind it. And every extra electronic layer is another possible failure point. This is why mechanics keep saying the same thing. The more complicated a car becomes, the more ways it can fail. And the more ways it can fail, the harder it becomes for an ordinary owner to control the cost. This is not just old men complaining about technology. J.D. Power's 2025 initial quality study found that infotainment remained the most problematic vehicle category, and owners were reporting frustration as more basic functions were buried inside touchscreens instead of physical buttons. Think about that. The problem is not only that screens break. The problem is that screens now control too much. In older cars, if the radio broke, you still had a car. If the CD player died, you still had heat. If the navigation system was outdated, you still had buttons, knobs, switches, and mechanical controls. But in many modern cars, the screen is no longer entertainment. The screen is the command center. Climate control. Seat heat. Drive modes. Camera settings. Safety warnings. Vehicle settings. Sometimes even basic controls are hidden behind menus. So when that system glitches, the car may still move, but the ownership experience becomes miserable. And that brings us to reason number 2. The repair shop is losing control. Independent mechanics used to be able to fix almost anything. They had tools. They had experience. They had parts. They had wiring diagrams. They had common sense. But modern cars are increasingly built around proprietary software, encrypted modules, special diagnostic tools, online service access, and locked systems that are easier for a dealership to control than for a small repair shop to handle. This is why the right to repair fight matters. This is not some nerdy legal debate. This is about whether you can choose where your car gets fixed. The Federal Trade Commission has already criticized repair restrictions in broader consumer products, identifying things like unavailable diagnostic software, limited spare parts, and restrictions that make independent repairs harder. And the same fear is growing in the auto world. Because when a car becomes software-defined, whoever controls the software controls the repair. And whoever controls the repair controls the price. That is the part people do not understand until it is too late. You are not just buying transportation. You are buying access to a closed system. And once the car is out of warranty, that closed system can become your problem. Imagine this. You buy a brand new 2026 vehicle. The monthly payment is already in full. The insurance is higher than you expected. The registration fees are higher. The tires are bigger and more expensive. The headlights are more expensive. The windshield has sensors behind it. The bumper has radar. The mirror has cameras. The dashboard has multiple screens. The car has over-the-air updates. The app wants a login. The safety systems need calibration. The battery has its own management system. The transmission may be controlled by software. The engine may use a turbocharged setup tune for efficiency, not simplicity. And then something goes wrong. Not a catastrophic failure. Just something small. Maybe a parking sensor stops working. Maybe the backup camera goes black. Maybe the touchscreen reboots. Maybe the driver assistance warning light comes on. Maybe the adaptive cruise control suddenly says unavailable. Maybe the automatic emergency braking system needs calibration. You take it to a local mechanic. And he says the sentence no car owner wants to hear. You may have to take this one to the dealer. That is when the real cost begins. Because dealership labor is not cheap. Software diagnosis is not cheap. Module replacement is not cheap. Calibration is not cheap. And waiting 3 weeks for an appointment is not exactly freedom. This is why mechanics are telling people not to rush into 2026 cars blindly. Not because every 2026 car is garbage. That will be too simple. Some 2026 cars will be excellent. Some will be reliable. Some will last a long time. Some will be worth buying. But the risk has changed. The old risk was, will the engine last? The new risk is, will the entire electronic ecosystem stay stable long enough for me to pay this thing off? That is a very different question. And here is where it gets worse. A lot of buyers do not even know what kind of machine they are buying. They see the badge. They see the monthly payment. They see the fuel economy. They see the horsepower. They see the interior. But they do not ask the questions mechanics ask. How many modules are in this car? How many features require calibration? How much is a headlight? How much is a windshield? How much is a battery pack? How much is a radar sensor? Can an independent shop diagnose it? Can I buy parts without dealer restrictions? Are basic features locked behind subscriptions? Does the car collect driving data? What happens when the software support ends? What happens when the screen fails? What happens when the company changes the app? What happens when a feature that worked for free becomes a paid service later? That is the new car buying checklist. And most buyers are not using it. They are still shopping like it is 2006. But the car market is not in 2006 anymore. The car market has become a tech market. And tech markets have a nasty habit of turning ownership into access. That brings us to reason number 3. The subscription trap. For most of automotive history, if your car had a feature, you own the feature. Heated seats. You bought the package, you got heated seats. Remote start. You paid for it, you used it. Navigation. You bought the system, it was there. But modern automakers have looked at software companies and learned a very profitable lesson. Why sell something once when you can charge for it forever? That is why subscriptions are creeping into vehicles. Connected services. Remote start apps. Advanced driving packages. Navigation. Data services. Dashcam functions. Performance unlocks. Comfort features. And even when automakers back away from the most unpopular ideas, the direction is obvious. They want recurring revenue. They want the car to keep making money after the sale. BMW's heated seat subscription backlash became one of the clearest examples of how angry drivers get when hardware already installed in a vehicle is treated like a monthly service, and BMW later acknowledged that charging that way for heated seats was a mistake. But the larger trend did not disappear. The industry learned something from that backlash. Not necessarily stop subscriptions. More like be more careful about what you put behind the paywall. And that should worry buyers. Because once a car is built around software locks, the company has power long after you leave the dealership. They can add features. They can remove features. They can bundle features. They can change prices. They can end support. They can require accounts. They can push updates. They can turn the car into a platform. And you become the user, not the owner. That is a massive psychological shift. Because the car used to be one of the last major physical things a normal person could truly own. You could buy it, modify it, fix it, maintain it, keep it running, sell it, hand it down, drive it for 20 years if you wanted. But the modern software-defined car is slowly changing that relationship. Now the car may depend on servers, apps, accounts, licenses, cloud services, data plans, dealer tools, software support. And every one of those things is controlled by someone else. So when mechanics warn people about 2026 cars, this is what they mean. They are not just warning you about bad engines. They are warning you about bad ownership. Because a car that runs perfectly but traps you in fees, dealer dependence, data collection, and software locks is not really a reliable car. It is a controlled product. And control is expensive. Now let's talk about the fourth reason mechanics are worried. ADAS. Advanced Driver Assistance Systems. This includes things like automatic emergency braking, adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, blind spot monitoring, parking sensors, rear cross traffic alert, driver monitoring cameras, and all the features that make a car feel safer and smarter. Now, to be clear, many of these features can help. They can prevent crashes. They can warn drivers. They can reduce mistakes. The problem is not that safety technology exists. The problem is that safety technology has repair consequences that many buyers never think about. In the old days, a bumper was a bumper. Now a bumper may contain radar sensors. A windshield may contain cameras. A side mirror may contain blind spot electronics. A grille may hide expensive sensors. A small collision can turn into a calibration job. AAA found that replacing or calibrating ADAS cameras and sensors can add hundreds or even more than $1,000 depending on the component, with front radar sensors, camera systems, and ultrasonic sensors all adding meaningful costs beyond normal body repair. This is why a minor fender bender does not feel minor anymore. The paint is scratched. The plastic is cracked. You think it is just cosmetic. Then the shop tells you the sensor bracket is damaged. The radar needs calibration. The camera needs alignment. The system needs scanning. The bumper cover cannot just be replaced casually. The windshield cannot just be glass. Suddenly, your cheap repair is not cheap. And insurance companies know this. That is one reason premiums have been painful for many drivers. Modern cars may prevent some accidents, but when accidents happen, the repair bill can be brutal. Mechanics see this every day. They see customers shocked by the cost of fixing parts that used to be simple. A headlight is not just a headlight. A mirror is not just a mirror. A windshield is not just a windshield. A bumper is not just a bumper. Every part has become smarter. And smarter often means more expensive. That brings us to reason number 5. The powertrain wars are creating confusion. Gas. Turbo gas. Hybrid. Plug-in hybrid. Electric. Mild hybrid. Start-stop systems. Small displacement turbo engines. Direct injection. Complex emission systems. Multi-speed transmissions. Single-speed EV drivetrains. Battery cooling loops. Inverters. Onboard chargers. Regenerative braking. High-voltage safety systems. Every powertrain has advantages. But every powertrain also has failure points. And 2026 buyers are walking into one of the most confusing car markets in history. The old question was simple. Gas or diesel? Now the buyer has to ask. Do I want a hybrid? A plug-in hybrid? A full EV? A turbocharged gas car? A naturally aspirated engine if I can still find one? Do I have home charging? Will public charging be reliable near me? How cold is my climate? How long do I keep cars? What happens outside warranty? How much is insurance? How much is battery replacement? How much is a hybrid component? How much is the cooling system? How proven is this platform? How new is this design? That last question is huge. How new is this design? Because mechanics will tell you one of the oldest truths in the car business. First model years can be risky. New platforms can be risky. New engines can be risky. New transmissions can be risky. New battery systems can be risky. New infotainment systems can be risky. New manufacturing processes can be risky. A brand new redesign may look exciting, but early buyers often become unpaid testers. They discover the rattles. They discover the software bugs. They discover the recalls. They discover the weak parts. They discover the problems that get fixed 2 or 3 model years later. Consumer Reports has said that all new designs and newer technology tend not to be as reliable as proven models, and its 2025 reliability analysis found hybrids had fewer problems on average than gas-only cars, while EVs and plug-in hybrids had more problems on average. That does not mean every EV is bad. It does not mean every plug-in hybrid is bad. It does not mean every gas car is good. It means complexity and newness matter. A proven hybrid system from a company with decades of experience is not the same as a rushed plug-in hybrid from a company trying to meet regulations. A simple, mature engine is not the same as a brand new turbocharged engine designed to squeeze every drop of efficiency out of a small displacement. A well-supported EV platform is not the same as a first-generation experiment. Mechanics are not saying, never buy new technology. They are saying do not be the crash test dummy for unproven technology unless you can afford the consequences. That is a very different warning. Now we need to talk about the thing nobody wants to admit. The dealership does not always make money when your car lasts forever. The automaker does not necessarily benefit when you keep a simple car for 20 years and fix it cheaply at an independent shop. The financial incentives have changed. New cars are expensive. Loans are longer. Parts are expensive. Repairs are specialized. Software is controlled. Subscriptions create recurring revenue. Data has value. Dealer service departments generate money. And the more complicated the vehicle becomes, the less power the owner has. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is the business model of modern connected products. Look at what happened with vehicle data. The FTC finalized an order with General Motors and OnStar over allegations that they collected and sold precise geolocation and driving behavior data without properly informing consumers or getting consent, and the order restricted sharing certain data with consumer reporting agencies. That should make every car buyer stop and think. Your car is not only transporting you. It may be observing you. Where you go. How fast you drive. How hard you brake. When you drive. How often you drive. And if that data can affect insurance, pricing, risk scores, or future services, then your vehicle is not just a machine. It is a data device. And a data device creates another ownership problem. Because when you buy a car, do you really understand what data it collects? Do you know who gets it? Do you know how to turn it off? Do you know whether turning it off disables features? Do you know whether the dealer explained it clearly? Do you know whether the app is optional? Most people do not. They just click accept. They just sign the paperwork. They just want to drive home. And that is exactly why this issue matters. The modern car purchase is no longer just mechanical. It is legal, digital, financial, technical, and psychological. You are buying a machine, but you are also entering a contract ecosystem. And most people are not ready for that. Now let's address the most controversial part. The so-called kill switch fear. There has been a lot of talk online about future cars being forced to include technology that can detect impaired driving and limit vehicle operation. Some people describe this as a government kill switch. Others say that phrase is exaggerated. Here is the grounded version. NHTSA has been studying advanced impaired driving prevention technology, but its 2026 report to Congress said the agency had not yet issued a federal safety standard requiring it, and the technology still has major challenges around accurate passive detection and avoiding false positives. So no, it is not accurate to say every 2026 car automatically has some universal government kill switch. But it is fair to say this. The direction of the industry is toward more monitoring, more automation, more intervention, and more software control. And that direction makes mechanics and drivers nervous for a simple reason. When a car can decide more things on its own, the cost of a wrong decision becomes higher. What happens if a sensor misreads? What happens if a camera is blocked? What happens if software fails? What happens if the car disables a system incorrectly? What happens if the driver cannot override something? What happens if the repair requires dealer-level recalibration? These are not crazy questions. They are practical questions. Because mechanics know that every system fails eventually. The question is not whether technology can help. The question is what happens when it breaks. And who pays? Usually, the owner pays. That is why the 2026 car scares so many independent repair people. Not because it is futuristic, but because it shifts power away from the owner. It shifts power toward the manufacturer, toward the dealer, toward the software provider, toward the data system, toward the subscription model, toward the scan tool, toward the locked module, toward the update server, and away from the person who actually paid for the car. Now, let's talk about money. Because at the end of the day, this is not just about technology. It is about your wallet. AA's 2025 driving cost analysis estimated that owning and operating a new vehicle costs about $11,577 per year, or roughly $965 per month, when considering things like depreciation, finance, fuel, insurance, maintenance, repair, and fees. That is before the unexpected nightmare. That is before the out-of-warranty module. That is before the touchscreen replacement. That is before the ADAS calibration. That is before the software problem. That is before the subscription stack. That is before insurance increases. That is before the battery concern. That is before the dealer says the part is backordered. And this is why the phrase, "I can afford the payment," is dangerous. Because the payment is not the cost. The payment is only the entrance fee. The real cost is what happens after you own it. Depreciation. Insurance. Maintenance. Repairs. Tires. Software. Subscriptions. Diagnostics. Downtime. Stress. A car can bankrupt you slowly. Not by exploding, but by bleeding you month after month. This is where older, proven cars start to look attractive again. Not because they are perfect. Old cars have problems too. Rust. Wear. Leaks. Old seals. Old suspension. Bad maintenance history. No warranty. Safety gaps. Parts availability issues. Nobody should pretend old cars are magic. But a proven older car has one major advantage. People understand it. Mechanics know it. Parts exist. Failures are documented. The weak points are known. The forums are full of answers. The repair process is more open. And in many cases, the car can be fixed without begging a server for permission. That is why you are seeing more people say the same thing. Maybe the best car is not the newest car. Maybe the best car is the one that has already proven itself. Maybe the best car is the one your local mechanic can actually repair. Maybe the best car is the one without unnecessary complexity. Maybe the best car is the one that does not turn every small problem into a software investigation. That is the mindset shift. In the old economy, new meant better. In the modern car market, new can mean unproven. New can mean locked down. New can mean expensive. New can mean experimental. New can mean subscription ready. New can mean data hungry. New can mean fragile in ways you cannot see. And that is why mechanics are warning people to slow down. Not panic. Not swear off every new car forever. Slow down. Ask better questions. Do not let a giant screen hypnotize you. Do not let a low monthly payment distract you. Do not let a salesman sell you technology you do not understand. Do not assume luxury means durability. Do not assume expensive means reliable. Do not assume a new model is better than the old one. Do not assume the dealer will be cheap after the warranty. Do not assume the app will stay free. Do not assume the data collection is harmless. Do not assume every feature is worth owning. Before you buy a 2026 car, ask your mechanic what they think. Not the influencer. Not the dealership. Not the commercial. Not the brochure. Ask the person who fixes cars after the excitement wears off. Ask them which engines they trust. Ask them which brands are becoming harder to repair. Ask them which models have expensive parts. Ask them which vehicles are overcomplicated. Ask them which systems are known for electrical issues. Ask them which cars they would buy with their own money. That answer may save you thousands. And here is a simple rule. If the car needs a subscription to feel complete, be careful. If basic controls are buried inside the screen, be careful. If it is the first year of a major redesign, be careful. If the brand has no long track record with that powertrain, be careful. If the warranty is the only thing making you feel safe, be careful. If your local independent mechanic cannot work on it, be very careful. If a small accident can destroy sensors all over the car, be careful. If the car collects driving data and the privacy settings are confusing, be careful. If the dealer cannot clearly explain repair costs, be careful. If everyone is hyping it but nobody has owned it for 5 years, be careful. Because the real test of a car is not how it looks on delivery day. The real test is year 5, year 6, year 7. When the warranty is gone. When the loan is still alive. When the screen starts glitching. When the sensor fails. When the part is barcoded. When dealer wants diagnostic fees. When the software update does not fix the issue. When the repair costs more than the car feels worth. That is when you find out what you really bought. And for too many people, the answer is painful. They did not buy freedom. They bought dependency. They bought a payment. They bought a platform. They bought a product designed to keep pulling money out of them. This is the hidden decay of the modern car industry. The vehicle looks better than ever. The interior looks futuristic. The lighting is beautiful. The screen is massive. The marketing is emotional. The technology is impressive. But underneath all of that, ownership is becoming weaker. Repair is becoming harder. Privacy is becoming thinner. Costs are becoming less predictable. And the owner is becoming less powerful. That is why mechanics are warning everyone about 2026 cars. Not because the future is bad. But because the future is being sold without the fine print. And the fine print is where the trap lives. So before you sign for that new 2026 model, do one thing. Step back. Ignore the screen. Ignore the salesman. Ignore the new car smell. Ignore the monthly payment for a second. And ask yourself, can I afford to own this car when it stops being new? Can I fix it outside the dealer? Can I live without the subscriptions? Can I trust the software? Can I understand the data collection? Can I handle the repair costs? Can I keep this thing for 10 years? Because if the answer is no, then maybe the mechanic was right. Maybe the smartest move in 2026 is not buying the newest car. Maybe the smartest move is buying the car that still lets you be the owner.